leading with Lily, or as I like to call it, an idiot's guide on directing your apes in your game. Just to go over what we'll be talking about today. So we'll be going over key command skills. So what you should be keeping in mind as a leader. So whether you're a team lead or whether you're a platoon lead, in either case, these skills are going to be very important for you. I will be going over squad structure examples. So mostly talking about how, especially in this unit, how we like to set up squads in our ARC games. Obviously, this won't apply for Assault and Secure, as that's more of a nice little casual experience for everyone else. We'll be going over best practices as well, key things on what to do, and also things to avoid, so what not to do. And whilst we're talking about things to avoid, we'll also go a little bit over some conflict resolution. And then at the end, we'll have a open Q&A. At any point, you are more than welcome to ask a question when we're going over any of these. Whilst we're going over any of these topics, if you want to request, a bit of like a speaking moment for yourself, just say something either vocally or ping me on the Discord. I should be able to see it nice and easily. Okay. And just to preface all of this, this is from my own experience, both in game. Obviously, a bunch of you will have seen me platoon lead, a bunch of you will have seen me team lead. But this is also from experience in other Milsim games, and just from my experiences leading in many other situations. I'm not like some of you. I haven't been in the military myself, but I don't really think we should be viewing things in that lens. But I'd be happy to hear some of your own experiences and suggestions later on in the Q&A session. And all of this information should not be seen as this is what you must do. This should be seen as a learning experience for everyone involved and for a way for you to mold this and apply this to your own command preferences, because everyone commands differently. Some of you may agree with me, some of you may disagree with me, and some of you will have a mix of both. At the end of the day, this is for everyone's own self-development. But without further ado, we'll go on to the first point, being key command skills. So the most important thing when leading a group is making sure that there is one specific goal in mind. There is not just 4 people, or in the case of a platoon, 16 people all just going around, running around like headless chickens. There should be one person leading the entire group. And then when looking at the team level, there should be one person leading the squad to their objective. So the way that we kind of want to implement this is by ensuring that you're not losing control of your squad and you're not losing control of your platoon. So don't let other people backseat lead. If you see people trying to do that, make sure you put them in their place. At the end of the day, you are the one who's designated to lead, or you were the one who stepped up to lead. If they wanted to lead, they should have done that at the start, at the pre-game lobby. This isn't something that should be changing in the middle of a match. Obviously, some exceptions can, apply. Sometimes, people disconnect, and obviously, if that person wants to continue leading and you're happy with them taking over, that's perfectly fine. But we don't want to have too many chefs in the same kitchen, so to speak. And again, like I said, squad leads need to be leading their squad. And as a squad lead, you don't lead the platoon. You shouldn't be telling other people where to go. You can request help, but it's up to the platoon lead whether or not they send it. And as a platoon lead, don't let your squad leads take over. It's a very simple thing to kind of lose, especially during chaotic situations, such as extracting. I know that can be a very, very easy way for people to kind of, yell out and try and take control. But it's your responsibility as the leader to avoid that where possible. So make sure you try and use like a firm voice in those situations if you need to. And obviously, if you get people who are trying to backseat lead constantly, don't be afraid to come to any of the staff members. And this is something that can be resolved after matches and stuff. The next key skill, and I think everyone can agree with this, especially if you've had failed arc runs, is to be flexible. Remember, a good plan never survives first contact with the enemy. A lot of the times, what you initially planned at the start of the match isn't what's going to happen. You could set each squad perfectly. You can have like maybe your one exterminator squad and your two resource squads, but at the end of the day, sometimes those squads are going to need help. Exterminator squads often can easily wipe due to a single mistake or due to just due to luck. You know, sometimes one lucky grenadier hit can take out an entire squad, and next thing you know, you've got two exterminations that are about to expire, and people who don't really need to be doing anything else. So if you need to move squads around, make sure to do it. If you need to get a resource squad on an extermination, don't be afraid to do that either. If any of you have uh, been in my platoons, you'll know I am very infamous for having a plan at the start and then sending people wherever I need them to go. And for those who've also been there, you'll know that it's always worked out. The next and third key skill that we want to talk about is keeping yourself open to good ideas. So being receptive to those both under your command and also to your peers as well. So this can be in-game and this can be post-game. So in-game, if someone gives you a suggestion, don't just dismiss it out of hand. Listen to it properly and then make your own assessment on whether or not you believe it's right for your situation. At the end of the day, you're the one sailing the proverbial ship or captaining the proverbial ship. Sometimes ideas will be unorthodox at first, but if you give them a second think, you might find that they're perfect. So a good example for this is say during an extraction, if one of your squad members, or if you're the platoon lead, one of your squad leaders suggests a certain route, such as jumping off of a bridge onto some cliffs in order to avoid the arachnids behind you, make sure you give yourself a proper think on whether or not it's a good idea, and if you believe that it'll be beneficial to you and to the platoon as a whole, take it on board. If you believe that it's not a good idea at the time and that your first course of action is the best one, then make sure that those squads who gave the suggestion don't just go rogue on their own. Remember, you need to remain in control and you need to keep that squad and platoon cohesion in check. The fourth skill that we want to talk about is being clear and concise. So don't mumble, keep your comms consistent and to the point, and at all times try to at least appear confident and not nervous. Try not to trip over your words too much. Sometimes, if you're like me and you have 5,000 thoughts at once, it can be very easy to trip over your own words. But if needed, just take a time to take a deep breath, grab a quick sip of your water or whatever drink that you have, and then come back incredibly refreshed and uh, refocused. If you don't have anything important to say, it shouldn't be said, essentially. Your voice, when heard, needs to be easily receptive. And then the last thing that we want to talk about for key command skills is level-headedness, or as we would call it over here in the UK, keeping your beef for after the match. So remember, in-game is not the place to resolve issues. If someone is being horrible to you or rude, or just in any sense of the word disruptive, you should not be dealing with it in-game, at least Pardon me. Apologies. Um, you shouldn't be doing it in game, at least not in depth. Obviously, if you need to tell them to, be quiet, or if you need them to clear comms, make sure to do that, but you shouldn't be ripping someone a new one during the match. Remember, when you're in game, you're fighting the bugs, not each other. Afterwards, of course, you can approach the person and deal with the situation between yourselves. Of course, if this person is particularly rude or unpleasant, uh, feel free to, again, approach any of the staff members. Most of them are available 24/7. At the very least, can take your message and pass it on to those who are available if they're not. Um, Before we go forward, do we have any questions or any talking points that anyone wants to make before we go, further out?
Everyone's quiet.
No? Everyone? Hmm. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Remember, for those who aren't leading, it's very easy to kind of assume that it's an easy job. And whilst it is a game, these people, remember, squad leads and platoon leads are volunteering to take on extra responsibility to make sure that your game is enjoyable and everyone else's game is enjoyable. Um, I know sometimes having snarky squad leads and snarky squad members can be a horrible experience and can be very disheartening. But remember, if you escalate situations in game, all that does is it makes it worse for you. You'll only feel worse afterwards, and then it also makes everyone else who has to listen to it even worse as well. You're ruining not only your own experience but everyone else around you, and that's something that we want to try and avoid. That's why we try and encourage people to resolve these issues either privately or through the proper channels.
Yeah, there was just more of my 2 cents to the people that are they're here trying to learn about leading and stuff like that, but the people who aren't, just kinda listen to the people who are leading. They're giving their time and their effort, and sometimes they make a bad call. Just don't be that dick that calls them on it consistently. It messes up the way they, like, look at the entire game and could lead to you failing later on.
Yep, I
So I have
wholeheartedly agree.
a point to make on this slightly. So
Uh, yeah, go for it.
um when PLing, sometimes you get squads that aren't capable of also doing anything.
Hmm.
Um and it's hard to figure out exactly what squad that might be because a lot of the times your squad leads don't communicate with you. You also have to just ask them constantly, like, "Hey, how's it going?" On your journey to wherever the fuck you're going. You get what I'm saying? Um, just to make sure that they're not getting picked off because sometimes it's hard to scan around as a PL. Um, Trying to check just to make sure that everybody's still alive in somebody else's squad because the only time you get any indication of somebody going down is that little red symbol, which everybody can miss. So just try to keep checking up on your squads just to make sure that each one is doing all right. You're going to know that you have some squad leads that are more capable of working with different people than others. So just um, if you think you're going to have an issue with a squad or you see them wipe once or twice, uh, also just with Lily's thing about being flexible, maybe send them a roamer or two. Um, and stuff like that. Because I've had times where I've had games where I've had an entire squad wipe twice, and I knew it was my fault that I should have swapped the squad with a different squad, but I never
Mhm.
did. Because I assumed giving them a couple more people, not putting any blame on hunters, but I gave them 3 hunters and they still wiped.
I
But I'm good. That's all I wanted to say about just, make sure you check up on your squads.
Mm.
And then like the flexibility, you're gonna make a mistake as a PO. It happens.
Yes.
But if you have to do like a complete audible because one squad just can't handle something, I just recommend doing it instead of waiting too long. But
Absolutely.
all right,
And
other than that, to you.
I also have
Uh,
something to add. Oh, sorry.
do as well.
Be-
Go ahead,
before
Moriarty.
before we take I'll take 2 more after this, and then that'll be it before we go into the next section.
Oh, no, you go
But
first.
to go off of what Crack said, I think well, one, I perfectly agree with, making sure that you're not afraid to swap squad designations. Again, this is something that for those who have worked under me before, you'll see I'll do that a lot. Without even needing to clearly, like, to specifically say, hey, you're off of this duty. I'll move people around when I think that they're more suited to a particular task. Sometimes squad squad roles may not be perfect for it. For example, you wouldn't exactly want to redesignate a hunter squad to ore management. But to go off of another point as well, not just being not afraid to check in with your squads, but as a squad lead, don't be afraid to call for help either. If your squad goes down and you're doing something important, whether it be gas extraction or whether it be an extermination, if you feel like you need support, it's never a bad thing to call for support, to actually ask for that help. A lot of people think that they'll be able to do everything on their own, but at the end of the day, all it takes is one mistake on your end, or just a case of bad luck for all of your hard work to go to waste. And so if you find that, a lot of your squad's going down, just call your PL, ask for some reinforcements, and they'll send them. And if they don't send them, well, then that's something for you to talk about with them in the future after the match. We had 2 more people who wanted to speak. So who wants to go first?
Yeah, the thing I wanted to add is exactly what you said at the end. As a squad, I've seen many people think they can do everything and don't be afraid to ask for help. There's always roamers that can come and help if you see the situation is going to fail if you don't get any more help. Sometimes a squads I've seen be very quiet and don't say anything until the whole squad is wiped and it's too late to help them. Just don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
yeah, no, it was exactly the same thing as you said. That was my point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's good to see that this this desire for more people to want to speak up isn't just alone in myself. Again, there's nothing shameful about not being able to complete your objective on your own. Sometimes you just need that help. No one's going to think of you less for it. If anything, people are going to think more of you for it because you're willing to admit your own shortcomings.
Can I get a
And
2-second side thing whenever you're done?
we had one more person who wanted to speak afterwards, and I'll let them go through first, and then if we're still on track, I'll let you have yours. So can I get the second speaker to speak up?
Yeah, you partially covered what I was going to say, but I was going to speak specifically to those that do the squad leading. Like when you guys are out there, and if you get wiped on something, you got to make sure you report it back to us so that we can either get you the help or whatever it may be, or get somebody to replace you. I've had a lot of times where squad leads will wipe their entire squad either on an X-term or getting resources, and I don't even know they've wiped. They just come back to base and go back out. Like I could have already had somebody, en route to do that and sent you guys to do something else. So we just need a little bit better communication on stuff like that.
Yeah, again, absolutely, completely agree. And something that squad leaders need to remember is for the PL, you are the PL's eyes and ears. You're always going to be the first person that we expect to come back to us about any situation. At the way that the game is set up right now, it's very limited on what any one squad can receive just from the map alone. Hell, half the time the down markers don't even appear properly after a certain range. So making sure that, again, keeping communication up, and that's something that we want to work on in the future as well, and hopefully something that a lot of you will see improve over the coming weeks and the coming months. All right, Cracked. You want to have your 2 cents
Yeah,
thrown
2
in?
seconds.
Go for it.
All right. So also as squad leads, not only do you need to speak up, but take into account your group's setup because you might have open players that are running Maritas. So you're technically down a person, you know. So if your PL is gonna send you to the farthest mineral, just be like, hey, I don't think my group can do this. Can we do the closer set? And maybe the other group has a little bit stronger loadout. So don't be afraid to speak up and be like, hey, yeah, well, I don't think we can do this. So, and then we just don't have that issue in the first place, and you really help the PLs. All right.
Okay, I accidentally missed someone who wanted to speak up earlier because they typed it. By the way, if you want to ask by typing, please make sure to ping me because then it will alert me. I don't get open pings here. JT and T, I believe you wanted to add something, so you'll be the last one. Absolutely.
Yeah, so pretty much what I have seen and kind of going off of getting wiped is some squads don't want to tell the PL that they got wiped. I've definitely had that happen when I first joined the Discord and it was fairly new. Recently, it's been a lot better, and not a lot of teams have been wiped. One of the things that I've seen when PLing is to constantly be looking at the map and looking where everyone is. I know that's kind of difficult when you're defending the base and all that, but that can definitely help the squads out a lot. One specific time was a squad was going out to ore, and there was an extermination that popped up right on their way to that ore, and the exterm squad was completely on the other side of the map. And I was able to get another squad to go and help them do the exterm, and then they could head on to the ore. So definitely one of the things that I do a lot is, if I'm PL, I'm usually either in a bunker on top of a bunker on a building, something like that, and I'm checking the map and seeing where all my squads are and kind of seeing, how they're doing, if a person's down or dead or something like that. Because even though communication has improved, a lot of times if like one or two people die, or even if the squad wipes, they won't necessarily tell you. So looking at the map is very, very, very helpful. And I know most people do that, but they usually just kind of glance at it, from what I've seen, as opposed to like taking that 10, 15 seconds to like go in depth and check each squad and where they're at.
Yeah, yeah, some really good points being made. Obviously, as a PL, your main job is to be directing everyone, and your map is your best friend. I know me, I like to basically like dip my finger into everything when in the command squad, so I always like to check out the building and stuff as well. But most of my attention, if not all, is squared solely on the overview map. So just keeping that global awareness up and trying making sure that we're not just looking at what we see visibly around ourselves, but also what we can see from the tools that we are given. Hopefully, I believe that we're actually supposed to get more intel tools coming up in the future. But for now, again, your voice is your best tool for providing key information. So don't be afraid to use it. But that's enough for key command skills. We're going to go on to our squad structure examples. So we're not talking so much about the platoon and what you should be putting, like your. We're not saying what your squad, like your per squad setup should be. We're just going over examples on how you want to structure your specific squads themselves, if that makes sense. So not looking at the whole platoon, just looking at the types of squads that we have and things that maybe you want to encourage for certain kinds of squads, and also going over the important roles that those squads would ideally need to be doing. So to start it off, we'll go over the command squad. So as a PL, that's going to be your squad. Typically speaking, I always see this to be Demon Squad, since it's the one that we have at the top. It's the first squad that you see on the leftmost side. And this squad serves two main roles. One, leading and defending the base, and two, building said base. So if you have a builder, they go in the command squad. If you're a PL, you're in the command squad already. A tertiary role that I see, and I say tertiary, not secondary, is because this is something that I don't normally believe in, but is also having hunters for QRF. A secondary role would be having the command squad do objectives nearby the base. So whether that be a or objective that's right outside of base's door, that should be the command squad's job, in my opinion. And then obviously any bonus objectives that other squads may be completing, the command squad, if they're close by, should be providing what support they can. So if you have hunters on top of large walls or buildings, they should be throwing out pot shots to try and help out those other squads. If you have operators that are nearby and you see a squad very close by wipe, that operator should ideally try and use their drone to pick up one or two of the members, if not all of them. You shouldn't be going away from your squad too much when doing these extra duties, but having that flexibility with your command squad kind of eases the burden on everyone else, and it also provides your command squad with something to do. As I know for some people, being in the command squad and not being the PL or not being the builder can be a very boring job for yourself at times. Going on to Hunters for QRF, this is something that I know that some people are very, very fond of doing. Having a hunter being sent out to support objectives, or just to kill grenadiers as well. So maybe you have a rogue grenadier from a infestation that was cleared out. Maybe they missed the grenadier at the time, or maybe they wiped right at the tail end of things. Having someone available at all times to deal with those threats can be a good practice going forward. However, you should not feel pressured to do this, as again, everyone has different ways of commanding, and sometimes having one hunter, especially if this is someone that's inexperienced or someone that you don't necessarily trust, can be a liability, as all it takes is one sneaky gunner or one accidental swipe from a warrior, or God forbid a tiger, and then you're suddenly a man down in your squad. In terms of actual setups for the command squad, there aren't really too many roles that need to be filled. I would normally recommend, if you have a builder, them going as an operator for the extra build speed is very useful. And then having command squads have operators in general allows for kind of that guaranteed healing ability, especially when things go tits up during extractions or during arc defense. But in the end, you can be very, very flexible with what you have in your command squad, and using those classes to your best ability in the area that you're in is also very key. So if you've got tall towers and you've got hunters, get them up there and use them for sniping. But that's pretty much it for the command squad. Nice, versatile, and definitely one of the more crucial aspects of, well, any platoon.
What is QRF? Sorry.
QRF, so quick response force.
Oh, okay.
Or quick reaction force, some people might say. Basically, if if something pops up, so if there's a threat that pops up, or someone needs support, QRF units are normally sent to assist. So it's just a lovely little abbreviation that we use. The next squad structure that we'll be talking about, and is arguably one of the most important, if not the most important, is the extermination squad. These boys are what keep your games nice and comfortable if they do their jobs. So, obviously, their role is in they prioritize clearing out extermination missions, and by doing this, they keep the infestation level low. So remember, whenever an extermination pops up, the infestation level instantly increases, and it won't go down unless that extermination is dealt with. If the extermination fails, that infestation level increase is permanent and can't be removed. Because of this, ensuring that your extermination squads are both self-sufficient and really most of all mobile is one of your biggest concerns when figuring out how to utilize it. In terms of composition, there is no set way of setting up an extermination squad. I know people like to prioritize having at least 1 or 2 bastions, as well as having at least 1 operator for self-sustaining purposes. So we're talking about anyone that can really take scanning beacons, and 1 person that can take an ammo canister or ammo fabricator. Having those 2 tool pieces is kind of critical when having an extermination squad. Scanning beacons, for those who aren't aware or who may be misinformed, scanning beacons mark enemies, and marking enemies lets you do double the damage to them, which in Hard Arc, which is what we run the most, is honestly a goddamn fucking lifesaver. It makes warriors piss easy to deal with, and it makes tigers less of the crazy threat that they normally are during hard arc runs. And considering that whenever you do an infestation, you're going to be facing targets that are at the next tier above you anyway. So you're going to be facing tigers very early on if you're doing extermination missions. You're going to be facing grenadiers as well later on. And no one is going to be less happy to see a scan beacon than a grenadier, because 1 scan beacon on a grenadier, 3 people with Hawkeyes, or God forbid, a saw, and their health just completely gets deleted. Having 1 dedicated extermination squad is pretty much standard operating procedure within the unit. I have seen people do 2, or at least sending people to do extermination squad duties. But at the end of the day, any squad can do what the extermination squad can do. Doesn't matter if you're a resource squad, doesn't matter if you're a dedicated exterminator. You can both do the same job. But having someone and ensuring someone is always doing that work keeps your games going too crazy. You can go half an hour into a match and only just reaching infestation level 2 permanently, just from the natural progression. Next one that we'll be talking about is the resource squad. So again, this is one that we normally recommend that you at least have 1 of. And whilst anyone can really do this job, there are better compositions that will make the resources squad job a lot easier. So just to preface it, the resource squad, what you do is you focus on ore extraction and gas extraction. So you head over to the location site, whether it be close or whether it be far, you build your refinery, and you're basically playing a game of defend the refinery until all of the canisters have been extracted, they've been collected by your squad members, and then you RTB back to your base, deposit what resources you need to, and then go on to the next one. Because of the nature of what you're going to be doing, operators are highly preferred in these resources squads. In fact, half the time, having 4 operators in your resource squad isn't a bad idea. In fact, half the time, it can be probably one of the strongest compositions you could possibly have. For those who may not know or who need a quick little refresher, your operators can carry a canister on their backpack as well as use their primary weapon at the same time. And in fact, operators are capable of carrying 2 canisters because of this, one in their hands and one in their backpack, which is automatically stored away and doesn't get dropped even when they get downed. Remember, the backpack canister only gets dropped if the operator themselves die outright. Canisters, when dropped or inside refineries, are highly volatile and will be destroyed upon taking enough damage. So, especially if you've got a grenadier bug nearby, if that blast hits anywhere near that canister, they're gone and you've just wasted 30 seconds of your life per canister. So operators make that and make dealing with that a whole lot easier. Bastions are also recommended since half the time you're going to be standing in the same place, defending a static objective, and placing a bastion right in front of the console for the refinery ensures that you always have someone there to turn it back on once the canister has been completed. Typically speaking, though, I don't really like having hunters in resource squads. As a hunter, if you're carrying a canister, you're nearly completely defenseless, and you can't even use your primary ability of your jetpack, as the canister actually weighs you down, meaning that unless you're jumping and you're really lucky, you won't get any more than a couple meters height, if even that. But that's pretty much it for the resource squad. Operators and bastions excel in this role, operators specifically as well. Having 4 operators with their canisters and having their weapons available to them is pretty much a cakewalk. I know right now operators are kind of overpowered, but I feel like this is going to be a thing, especially going forward after balance changes happen. Lastly but not leastly, this is a squad structure that this is more of a squad designation rather than a squad structure, but I like to use auxiliary squads. So this is normally your spare squad. This is your person who doesn't have a specific designation and is expected to go to either one of these when the need arises. So again, like I just said, they can be used for anything and everything. Typically speaking, you want them to be mobile, you want them to be self-sufficient, but you also want them to not be hyper-specialized. You don't want to have 4 hunters as an auxiliary squad. All that does... Sorry?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so it's kind of like a QRF squad in a way.
Basically. I like to think of it more as like a balance squad more than anything. You can use them for QRF, so you can use them for QRF for exterminations and resource squads. So if they need reinforcements, you can send them over. Or if there's anything that needs to be done, so say for example, you've got an extermination nearby a resource squad, and you decide, hey, I need to go send my resource squad over. You can then send the auxiliary squad to take over the resources squad's previous objective. So they're more like a fill-in rather than QRF on their own. But you can use them for anything. If you want to use your auxiliary squad as QRF, you can set them up that way. This is just more of a flexible designation that you can give. It's something that I like to give to my last squad. So I'll always have a solid exterminator squad, a solid resource squad, and then I'll have my last squad be used for everything. And I tell them, you're going to be doing a mix of both. So don't set up just for one or the other. Set yourself up for both. Be nice and balanced. Does anyone have any structure types that they want to mention, or do they have anything that they want to add? JT and T, you... Yeah.
Yes, I just have
JT, go
something
first.
I just have something to add for the resource.
Yep, go for it.
Is depending on the squad makeup, usually I have 2 operators and they're the ones carrying all 4 canisters. which isn't necessarily ideal, but most people don't want to be all operators all the time, the resource squad. But when they have the canisters, it is the job of the other two people to be blockers for the bugs as the resource people are running to base. If those people die, then that is perfectly fine. It is important to get the resources back to base. And I've noticed more recently, like a lot of times, I'll be either a hunter or bastion in the resource squad, and I'll have another bastion. And the people holding the resources will stop and drop and try to fight the bugs. And that should really only be like if the bugs are right on you and attacking you right then and there. Otherwise, they should just be running towards the base to drop off the ore or gas or whatever. So, like, if you're an operator in the resource squad and you the ore, just make a beeline for the base. If the two people or one person, whoever is doing the blocking, it kills all the bugs, you can definitely wait for him because you may encounter bugs moving forward that he can take care of. But generally you should be constantly running towards headquarters and not stopping.
Absolutely, and I tell you what, to add on to that as well, having your operators double carry if you don't have full operator squads is probably the best idea that you can have, because in terms of having a hunter or a bastion carry ore, they become incredibly defenseless and also useless when it comes to their utilities. Hunters can't use their jetpacks, and bastion defenses just keep them in place, which is incredibly counter to what they should be doing if they're holding ore. Whereas operators can still use their healing drones in order to pick up down teammates. And of course, if you're running back to base, you're also not defenseless. You can use your melee to knock out any drones, killing them outright, or just knocking back any warrior bugs, so your allies who still have their guns out can assist you in that way.
And usually I
Uh,
have like the bastion move ahead, 100 meters, 50 meters, whatever. And if there's any bugs that he encounters, he can post up and kind of be a blocker for, all the bugs coming at him versus the resource people. And then I usually like to be either the last one kind of in base or getting back to base, because I can either post up somewhere high and run cover for the ore. But yeah, that's the main. If you're running resource, the main thing is to get the resource back to base.
All right. Two things. Pro
Harry's
tip.
go. One thing just to add on to that. Obviously, Bounding Fire works quite well. For Resource Squad, personally, from my experience, having them as mobile as possible is key. Bounding Fire is great because obviously you can cover those who, especially if you're using two operators who are carrying canisters, having them being covered is essential. But don't discount the 4 operator setup, as the screenshot shows. As again, having 4 people who are combat capable instead of 2 is often more useful than not. Again, that's kind of just the way that the game is balanced at the moment. Obviously, as balance changes happen in the future, I think Bounding Fire is going to be a lot more prevalent during those smaller setups. No one's speaking up? Okay, well, we're going to go forward then. And again, sorry about that, but again, got to keep it nice and considerate towards everyone else. So, best practices. Now, these are just things that I kind of want to highlight, kind of things I also want to see going ahead in the future from TLs and PLs. And also something for you guys to, like, you guys who don't necessarily want to lead, but some of these can apply to you as well. And the first one that I really want to bring forward to you guys is to be open to ideas and feedback. You're not going to be perfect. No one's going to be perfect. Some of you guys have just been playing the game for a couple of days. Some of you have been playing for weeks. But all of us can still improve. Especially with the game in the unfinished state that it is in right now, things are going to change going forward. And then at the end of the day, we're here to have fun. You improving and taking that feedback in doesn't just help you, it helps everyone around you. It helps your squad, it helps your PL, it helps your friends, and it helps the people, even the people who you may not want to interact with. But making our environment a lot more positive only serves to benefit everyone and doesn't serve to cause any problems for anyone. Also, learning from your mistakes, having that bit of self-reflection. If you tried something and it didn't work, try something new. Adjust it to your playstyle. If someone can suggest a new strategy for you, you can try it, and if it doesn't work, maybe it just needs a slight tweak. Maybe it needs a complete overhaul. These are things for you to decide on your own, and taking external feedback and making it fit your mold is something that we realistically should all be doing, not just in game, but also in our lives as a whole. Being open to admit those mistakes and to work on them is something that I know a lot of us may struggle with, but something that hopefully, especially together, we'll be able to improve going ahead in the future. A good practice as well is to be unorthodox when it's necessary. Not everything is going to be a cut and dry tactic that you've seen in other games, or you've seen in movies, or you've seen from your own experiences. Sometimes you need to, well, again, think outside of the box. Jumping off of a bridge to lose a massive train of arachnids behind you, climbing up buildings so that warriors and tigers can't reach you. These things can apply to your situation when those opportunities arise, and ideally should be seized if they are to the benefit of everyone around you. Especially during extractions where everything is chaotic and your actions have a lot more consequences, these tactics and other ideas that spring out of nowhere can mean the difference between a failed extraction and a successful one. So being creative with your commands can have a much greater impact than a more conventional tactic like bounding fire and such. Don't be afraid to exploit a broken game. And speaking of a broken game, remember, this is a game. Keep yourself positive. Try not to focus too much on it. You need to focus on enjoyment, not getting everything 1000% perfect. This isn't a game where you're going to be doing speed runs and, passing your games. No one's going to give you a medal for getting a sub 10-minute game or anything like that. We're here to have fun. We're
Not
here
yet.
for
Not yet.
enjoyment. Not yet, but we are here to have fun for now
Things are in
and
the works.
even going forward. So try to avoid burnout. If you're not having fun, take a step back from the game. Just finish your match, take a few minutes break, maybe take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however you need, an hour if you want, or just log off the game entirely. Go get some food, go get some water. Do something that makes you happy, and don't put yourself in a position where you're turning the game into work. No one wants to treat the game like a job. And if you do, you're only going to burn yourself out and you're not going to enjoy the game anymore. And then you'll leave, and then we'll never see you again. And that would just be sad for everyone. So, always, always remember, this is a game. All right, so going on to the next thing, kind of things to avoid as well. And these are misgivings that I have, and misgivings that I know other people have in here and outside of this call as well. So these are things to kind of be aware of, and hopefully things for you to improve on, or things for you to avoid entirely if you're not already in these situations. So kind of the first one, try not to let comms go wild. If you got people mic spamming, talking over you, shouting, or all in all breaking the comms restrictions that we have in place and the comms etiquette that we have in place, if these things are happening, you need to basically put the hammer down on that shit. Be firm. Tell people to stop talking. You know, the most common way that we do things like this is to say break, break. That's the more official way of doing it. Asking people to keep comms clear. You know, if you got people who aren't TL speaking in team chat, which is what we use for like our global PL comms, you know, try and make sure that the TL knows that. Oh, and if you're a squad lead and you have your members doing that, don't be afraid to tell them, hey, keep team comms clear. That should be for squad leads only and the PL. It shouldn't be for everyone else until, like, unless radio restrictions are lowered, such as when we do arc defenses and stuff. Remember, don't be horrible about it, just be firm. You're not there to cuss them out, you're just there to keep it organized for everyone. Because that way then, if everything's organized, we're able to get stuff done. If we're able to get stuff done, everyone has fun in the end. All right? Secondly, don't rage at players. And this is something that I have been guilty on a couple of occasions. And I know that other people in this VC, and you know who you are, you have also been guilty of this. Try and keep criticisms to only post-match debrief. And even if you do that, try and keep it civil. Don't just cuss them out. Instead, focus on improvements for them and try and remember that they will have definitely done something right, especially if it was a successful run. If they've done something right, give them credit where credit is due. Try not to keep it only as a negative feedback session. Kind of have a balance of the two. Because remember, if someone feels like they're being told off, they're not going to take your advice seriously. They're just going to see it as you bitching. But if you acknowledge where they've done right and you just try and show them where they can improve in the future, people will be a lot more receptive to this kind of feedback. And then lastly, this is for all of you here, whether you're a PL, a TL, or just a squad member. Do not become ignorant to your own mistakes. Remember, we are not infallible. We are not perfect. We are human. You will always make mistakes. And when you do, it is okay to admit them. It's okay to admit your own misgivings. It is okay to admit your own shortcomings. But what's most important is not to just say, oh, I fucked up, and then that be it. Instead, if you messed up, try and figure out where you can improve. If you have squad members there, maybe ask them for points to improve. Ask your squad leader, ask your platoon leader if you're a squad leader where you can improve. Everyone is more than happy to show you the right way to go. But you have to start that process in being open to that sort of improvement. And I hope going forward from here, we'll be seeing a lot more people, instead of lashing out at others, kind of trying to go more into self-reflection when it comes to these kinds of issues. There we go. Sorry about that. But that's pretty much it for our main things to avoid. Obviously, there are going to be things in game, but this is more on a team leader level and just like a general how you say this isn't specifically gameplay tactics per se. So we're not going to go into saying, hey, don't play a hunter. as much as this is definitely a thing to avoid. From here, just a thing to brush up on as well, because I did mention it. When it comes to conflict resolution as well, if you have people in your games who have been causing problems, either to you specifically or to other people around you, if this is something that you want to deal with yourself, say for example this is someone being rude directly to you, like we say, wait until after the match is over and try, if possible, to take it into DMs. Don't keep it public. Don't put people on blast on public, as this can kind of alienate certain players, and we don't want people to be leaving the server because you decided to vent out all your frustrations on them with literally everyone watching them. If we see people doing that, it's going to be dealt with, and it's not going to be welcome in this community going forward. That being said, if you have issues where you can't trust yourself to kind of de-escalate on your own, or you have someone who's particularly rude, nasty, or just outright unpleasant, again, please bring this forward to admins, bring this forward to the staff team, and they will be more than happy to assist in these situations. A good way to go about things like this, if you decide to do it on your own, don't insult people, keep it civil, use calm tones, don't turn it into a shouting match. Sometimes it means you having to listen 90% more than you would ever do in most of your other life. If the other person is going on a bit of a bender, sometimes you just have to kind of leave them to talk and get it all out of the system before chiming in. If you keep interrupting the other person, all it does is just pisses them off, and then you'll get pissed off when they interrupt you, and then everyone becomes unhappy. But I just want to add that little point there, because I've been seeing some people get very heated in conversations, and some people have been getting a lot of complaints about them because of that. So look at that in the future, and hopefully we won't have people leave, and we won't have people be forced out of the server because of issues like that. Lastly, I kind of want to just end this on a bit of a Q&A. This could be questions that you want to pose either to myself or to other people in this VC right now. I know we have plenty of TLs here. We have we have a couple admins. I know we have Sweets, who is a PL. So anything that you have, pop them in the chat or just ask for the right to speak, and you can have it. I know first off, JTNT has something to say.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so it's a little bit about the enjoyment, and sorry, I have a kitten on me, so you might hear that. Whenever I'm PLing or squad leading, I try to make it as fun as possible for my team and squad. I still want to get the objectives done, but if there's any way to make it more fun for the people, that's definitely something, because this is a game like everyone was saying, and you do want to have enjoyment with it. And I like the milsim part where we actually split into squads and work together. But yeah, just having a good time is the number one thing that everyone should be focusing on. Is because if you get wiped, it's okay. You can go back out there and everything. It shouldn't be like a end of the world type thing, or you shouldn't get mad at the game or anything like that. It should definitely be about enjoyment. And I really I don't know about you guys, but I've loved Starship Troopers since I first saw it. And this game is like the epitome of what I have been waiting for the last 5 years. This game is better than any AAA title that I've seen in the last couple of years. That I have personally played. So it's definitely a game that you should have lots and lots of fun with.
Mhm.
All right, thank you. And again, Again, I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you just said. This is something that we really should be doing our best to enjoy. This is a game that for some of us, we've been waiting 20 plus years for a game like this to come out. This is like everything that a Starship Troopers fan, could have asked for, especially after some of the disappointing games that have come in the past. So, yeah, keep that level of positivity up, and hopefully we can make this community into an even brighter beacon than it already is.
Can I make a question real quick?
Who's that?
Stefano, hey.
Stefana, hey. Yep. What was your question?
Firstly, like, congratulations for the presentation. Like, I think everyone agrees it was great. Like,
I enjoyed listening.
yeah, I enjoyed listening. I thought it was gonna be boring, and it was like not boring. So that's really cool. Secondly, like I was just gonna say, I agree with the other guy. The game is really cool, so we should just enjoy it. Like the closest we had before was like Arma 3 with mods, so just chill and enjoy the game. Obviously, the mule seems cool too, but remember to enjoy the game, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also something that we have to realize as well. Whilst we try and in the future we're going to try and reincorporate the milsim element back into the game. At the end of the day, the way that the game is, it's not milsim in nature. Even with what we put into it, this isn't a game like Arma 3 where having strict protocols is pretty much required for everything to work perfectly. This is a game that's a lot more arcadey in nature, a lot more fun, and you'll see when we get randoms, people just want to have fun, and that's what we should be doing as well. So even when we get the milsim stuff back in, I hope everyone takes what we've talked about into consideration and kind of remember that even when we pretend to be milsim, you're still trying to just have fun in the end and not trying to make people's lives a living hell. Sweets, your mic is back on. So did you want to talk about TL?
What was the question?
So someone was asking about so they were asking about becoming a TL, but I know right now TL and stuff is being worked on, so I wanted to know if you wanted to comment about that and kind of let people know what's going on. If you want to right now. If you don't want to, you can save that for later.
I can comment on it. Are they currently at TTL?
No. So this is a person who wants to become a TL, so joining as a TTL.
Actually, Lily, they
yes.
corrected that. They want to be a PL.
Oh, they want to be a PL. Sorry, do you mean like in game, or do you mean under the PL under the PL TTL system? Do you mean under that, like, or do you just mean in game, doing stuff like that?
So yeah, they mean within the TLPL because they've been doing some of the PLing already.
All right. Right now, we're currently on hold for PL since we're restructuring our ranks. And so the promotions are on hold. We're making developing something for that right now currently. And we're shooting for around 3 weeks before we can push that out. If you want to PL, you can PL, you just won't have that rank. Once we have the ranking structured up, you can definitely must apply for it, but you will have to climb the ranks to get to there. And I can tell you that for a fact right now. So you will have to start as a TL, if we're going to have that system still, and push your way up the Starship Troopers ranks to get to PL. Does that answer your question? But as for now, we're not promoting people to PL right now within the game. Like I said, you can lead if you want to, you just don't have that official title yet.
All right, Sweets, thank you for answering that question and giving us that insight to the future of the PL and TL system. Isra, I know you have a question. Scotty also had something to say as well. So Scotty said it first, so I'll let them put it in. And I'm sorry for missing you, Scotty, earlier.
No, it's fine. This has
But
been
yeah, go
stretched
ahead.
on a little bit longer, but it's more of a statement really to the majority of people. I've actually seen this happen quite a bit where people will immediately drop into squads thinking that those squads are going to be dedicated to resources or to extermination. You should, for most of the people here, and for others who are probably going to watch this later on, maybe, really listening to the platoon leads, because I say extermination squad Cerberus. I've seen others say extermination squad is Hellfire, or it really depends on the platoon lead at the time. And as much as you want to make that a solidified thing, everybody has their own style. I mean, the squads are different for everyone. It happens, and that's all I wanted to put my sense into, is just be more thoughtful of your platoon leads when you're doing that type of stuff, because when you get in game, it can mess them up if you're going to do stuff that you didn't intend for them to do. So that's all. That's my 2 cents for the matter.
All right, thank you very much. Izza, you had a question or something to say?
Yeah, this is for the PL, the person that leads everything. I've seen it 3 times. What I can just count off my head is that the PL in the ending is not authoritative enough, meaning that some people are talking over him. The PL should be like, please shut up. I'm trying to do this. We are in a hurry now. We're about to do the dropship, and I want everybody in this specific place, on a bunker, on top of some stairs, whatever, right? And I've seen it so many times that people are getting spread out, and we're not in a, like, what do you call it, a conga line. We should be in a conga line, more or less, moving to the dropship. And most of the times it can be healers or whatever at the back getting killed, and sometimes we're not getting all 16 guys out. And I would just like to see that more, that you get everybody into one place and then go. That's about it. Yeah, really.
Yeah, that's a very good point to make as well. PLs, and again, this kind of goes back to something we talked about earlier, kind of making sure that the PL is doing their job and actually leading everyone, not allowing themselves to be put on the back burner, so to speak. If you're a PL and you've taken up that role, you need to make sure that you are actually leading everyone rather than allowing yourself to be led. And if you're a squad leader and you get the urge to lead everyone else who's outside of your squad, don't act on that. You can give suggestions to your PL, and if you think that you should be doing something else, or you think that you guys should be taking like a different route or anything like that, you need to give it to your PL as a suggestion rather than ordering everyone else when it's not your place. I've done that in the past where I've put it through as a suggestion, and half the time, if they see a good suggestion, they're going to take it anyway. There's no need to force the issue when half the time you can just work with the PL instead. Next we have Moriarty, and I think we're going to have only room for like another 2 after this, so Moriarty and then 2 more people if anyone else wants. So Moriarty, your question or thing to mention?
Yeah, one thing to add. When you're a squad lead, this is most for squad leads, but also for people playing in the squads. Always keep in mind when the platoon lead is talking, try to stop talk in your squad in Discord so we can hear them. I have done the same mistake also when I'm not squad leader, but I try to think about it. Just remember when the platoon lead is talking, try to clear the comms. sometimes it happens that you have to ask the platoon to repeat himself, which is unnecessary. Just keep it in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of keeping comms clear for important information is always important. But again, this is also something that I want to put forward as a platoon leader's responsibility. If you need to say something, you need to clear out the comms. And you need to make it very clear that what you have to say is going to be important. So again, you could do this by, requesting people to, break. So saying break, or to clear out comms. So you can give out the orders that you need to give out, or you need to give out the information that you need to give out. Doing it that way is doing it that way and taking the initiative on that, rather than just expecting everyone else to keep it clear, is the best way to do it. Hopefully,
Yeah.
again, we'll be able to smooth this out going forward. But taking the initiative is always going to be the best thing to do, at least for now and even going into the future. We have room for 2 more people, so if anyone else has any questions or anything that they want to say, now is your time. If not, we'll call it here. I see someone typing.
I've got a couple things.
Oh, yeah. Was that
Silex?
Silex. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. First thing, when you were discussing squad or platoon leaders' responsibilities, I feel like in the future, it's going to be on the squad leaders to ensure that their squad is set in the right roles, because there was somebody else talking about how the platoon leader can get overwhelmed because part of the thing that takes games so long to start is the platoon leader has to sit there and say, okay, this squad needs this squad needs that, this squad needs that. And then, 3/4 of the way down, people forget what they're doing. Then, okay, let's all go back to the dropship. Okay, now who's doing this? Who's doing that? It's like in the future, once you're a squad leader and your role for that squad's been assigned, it should be on you to ensure that your members are selecting the right classes to get the mission set done.
Yeah, that's pretty much a very fair point to make. Half the time, we would normally expect the squad leads to work with their squads to figure out their composition anyway. The most a PL can realistically do in those situations is to request certain things. So again, if if PL needs a certain thing for a certain squad, I can't really think of too many examples. The only really example I can think of is within their own command squad. But then that's something that they can micro in their own time anyway. I know, like me as PL, I normally ask that that resource squad goes very operator heavy. Like I normally like to see 2, 3, or even 4 operators in my resource squads, but I leave it to my squad leads to make that decision for themselves. They might have a better idea on how to do it, and at the end of the day, if they can just do their job, that makes me very happy. It doesn't matter how it gets done as long as it gets done properly. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I've got one more thing.
Yeah, go on.
What's up with the hunter hate? Because I haven't really been around. Like I've been around, but I haven't been involved in the conversations. And then all of a
Preach
sudden, it
it.
started popping
Preach
up.
it. Preach it.
It's
So
like me, I'm a hunter main. That's the first class I leveled up, and I think they have a lot of utility. And it's like, what's going on there?
So I'll say this, at least for me, the hunter hate is really just mostly a meme. The whole hate kind of comes from the fact that well, not hate, the meme comes from the fact that hunters are kind of neglected right now as a class. Typically speaking, your bastions and operators are going to be performing at a higher level than your hunters can. Your hunters, don't get me wrong, you guys have good utility, and the way that you guys can get to good vantage points means that you're able to take on targets that we wouldn't normally be able to do. And all classes are good. I'll definitely say that. All classes have their use. It's just that right now, the utility of the hunter is dwarfed by the utility of the bastions, and even more dwarfed by the utility of the operators. Operators fucking OP.
Can I say something as a hunter main real quick?
Yeah, I got some too.
Yeah, go for it.
There is
Jack
a
O'Neill.
point that people make that I have to agree. That's like let's be real. It's kind of a selfish role. I play hunter. I'm a hunter main, but it's kind of selfish. You know, you just fly away when shit goes down.
So
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The most hunters can really do to support their team is pick up ammo fabricators or tracking
Yeah.
or like scanning beacons. That's it. That's the most you can do. And just to quickly add before I let Pyramid speak, fucking love the PvP and the name. I've been rewatching SG1 since I seen your name. So thank you for that. Pyramid, you had something to add as a hunter main.
if you're not supporting your team as a hunter, you're doing it wrong. Like no, I'm dead serious here. Like
I'm just saying.
If you have a hunter in your squad, let's say it's 2 operators, a bastion, and a hunter. You can go to ore, you could go to exterms, you could do like whatever you want. As the hunter, your job is basically the eyes of like, oh shit, there's a tiger that's coming up behind you. Don't get hit. Let me start shooting it so that you don't get hit. With the Hawkeye, you can stun bugs so the bastion has time to reload. As the operators, you guys should be hugging the bastion as close as you can, and the bastion, put up your wall and do the big pew pew thing that you usually do. But if you're not being close enough to your operators, like it's still a team game. As a hunter, it doesn't matter if you can get 37 kills. If your squad dies with the ore, you failed your mission. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
no,
run
I
I
agree.
run hunter
I
as a
100%
squad
agree.
lead a lot of times, and
same here.
usually I'm on top of a building or somewhere, you know, that I can see everything. And as a squad lead, I'll point out where bugs are spawning, and if there's any big bugs, I'll mark them so my squad, usually on resource, can defend against them. And I really
totally
haven't
agree.
had any issues.
And that's where I think the hunter is the eyes of the game. Even though that the operators and the bastions can do the job without them, it's going to be much easier if the hunter is able to establish threats before they have to deal with them. So if you're not doing it that way, then you're doing it wrong. If you just fly away as soon as trouble arises, that means that you didn't tell your team that trouble was there to begin with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
And
probably true.
again, to kind of like finish explaining for Celux as well. Right now, Hunter is in a state where it does need more things added to it. It does need a buff. Either with better weapons or some better passives. Obviously, this is stuff that's going to be added down the line. But right now, they don't have the love that they should be getting. But this is something that will very easily be changed in the future. And soon the hunter hate will end. But for now, fuck hunters.
No, hunters.
The hunter
Everyone
hate should end already.
Hunter
Yes,
hate was just hunter hate was just from at the very beginning when everyone got the game. Everyone that started with Bastion or Operator died getting to the dropship when the hunters made it. That's the only thing.
100%.
Yeah.
As a hunter,
Yep,
you shouldn't
that's
be on the
true.
dropship first. You should be up on a tower sniping somewhere where you have a clear line of sight to get to the dropship, but you're also protecting the last guy who's getting eaten by 27 warriors and just hitting one. You don't have to kill them all. You just have to stun them off the bastion as they run their ass over because they're the slowest.
Oh, and
Yeah,
by
and
the
there's,
way, oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Go on.
There's one thing I like to add about the hunter, and this is kind of like the philosophy I've seen, especially with the divide. Like, you know, you have your operator, bastion, then you have your hunter. The operator and bastion, at face value, you can immediately tell what they're supposed to do. Operators can just carry canisters and be exceedingly useful. Bastions can go into siege mode and hold the line. The hunter can't do either one of those things, and you pick it up and you're like, oh, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? In my opinion, it's not a class that relies on its utility items. It's a class that relies on how you play it. It's got the highest learning curve, and I think that's why people don't like it, because they don't see the same immediate potential. Like, it sucks when you start with it because you don't even have the Hawkeye. But once you level everything out, you have the Hawkeye with your jetpack. Like others were saying, you're able to provide effective recon. And with the sprint ability, if someone's really in trouble, one hunter can rush and start shooting, start staggering bugs, and giving people a chance to catch their breath, reload, and form a new firing line. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
The
And
hunter is an alternate support class.
I think what we're trying to like highlight as well, it's not that hunters are necessarily bad. It's just that hunters don't have their proper identity yet. They have nothing that they can uniquely do aside from their jetpack that the other classes can't do. Every class is meant to be killing things, not just a hunter. And until the hunter gets extra things to identify themselves as the go-to DPS class, they're going to be not loved as much. For now, at least. I know there's like a few suggestions that have been going around on the forums and stuff, like adding like armor, like hollow point bullets and stuff like that for like as like passives to like increase the damage of hunters and to like give themselves more of an identity or like give them higher powered weapons, like maybe like a full blown sniper rifle instead of a marksman rifle. Just like any of these things for like the hunter or just any similar suggestions. And if you have any, please feel free go to the official Starship Troopers Extermination Discord. Go into the feedback forums and throw in your suggestions. They want to hear it. They love to hear it. So,
I got
and again, without your input, the game will never receive the changes that it so desperately needs, or it will take a while for those changes to happen.
one more thing.
Yep, one more thing. I'll tell you what, this is going to be the last thing, and then we're probably going to cut it here because I know everyone's itching to go back into the game. So,
You can use your jetpack as the hunter while you have a canister. It makes your jump slightly larger than the normal person's, but yes, it does limit the ability. It's just wanted to say that.
yeah. Like
You can still jump over things better than other people who can't get off the ground.
It's possible, but very difficult. It takes skill to do that. And admittedly, I cannot do that myself. I just get fucked up. But with that last thing, I kind of just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you for coming and listening to the presentation, and thank you to anyone who spoke as well for both giving your inputs and then also providing any questions that allowed us to expand our knowledge base as well. And I hope every single one of you has learned something from this. I hope you'll take the information that has been given to you here and apply it to your own games and also to your own life as well, especially with avoiding burnout and giving yourself that appropriate time to relax. Even if you're in a leadership position here, we do not expect you to be here 24/7, 12 months a year. It is perfectly fine to take those breaks, to do those other things that you like, and most importantly, taking care of yourself as well.